In situations involving high cholesterol, it is easy and even commonplace to resort to medication for keeping it under control. However, there are several strategies, including foods, that can actively help to improve your blood lipid profile and therefore reduce your risk of cardiovascular diseases. So, without further ado, let's dive right in, shall we? Hi folks, Shahzadi here. Welcome back to my channel, Desi Licious Dietitian on Demand, where I show busy health seekers like yourself how to eat for health, nourish mindfully, and thrive. This is your go-to source for health optimizing actionables and lip-smacking, easy and healthy recipes with a cultured twist. If that sounds like it's up your alley, hit that subscribe button. I've often overheard aunties and uncles complaining about their skyrocketing cholesterol, resulting in complaints about less parathas and niharis on doctor's orders. But what exactly is cholesterol? Now, simply put, it is a fatty substance found in blood, and it's predominantly produced naturally in the liver. Now, we need it to stay healthy because every cell in our body uses it. It may surprise you to know that a smaller amount of this cholesterol comes from the food we eat. A lipid profile or lipid panel is simply a screening tool. It's a set of blood tests that look for abnormalities in your lipids, such as cholesterol and triglycerides. Now, you may have heard your doctor reference LDL and HDL. We typically know high-density lipoprotein or HDL as good cholesterol. This is because it gets rid of the bad cholesterol from the blood. It takes cholesterol that we don't need back to the liver, which then breaks it down so it can be passed out of our bodies. Low-density lipoprotein or LDL is popularly labeled as bad cholesterol. But here's the thing. This is a common misconception. In truth, the reality is much more complex. A high HDL level in itself cannot be analyzed as a singular biomarker or cause of heart disease and other cardiovascular issues. Now, before you run off and devour a 30-pound burger or dive into 100 Sikh kebabs, hold your horses. LDL must be considered one factor in a wide array that can increase or decrease an individual's chance of heart problems. This more nuanced view allows us to analyze LDL and cholesterol as a whole, beyond the frame of a good-bad vacuum. As much as it's tempting to blame LDL for all the heartache, let's remember that cardiovascular disease is in fact a metabolic and hormonal disorder. The spark that results in aggressive atherosclerosis, which is the accumulation of fat in arteries that cause a blockage that results in a heart attack, is usually a result of insulin resistance, which is characterized by high levels of glucose and insulin. And this cascade typically occurs over time, sometimes over decades. If you're interested in learning more about this, head on over to the blog where I've taken a deeper dive and referenced the research. Okay, let's talk about how to get things in control through diet and lifestyle measures, because in situations of high cholesterol, it is easy to resort to medication. I'm going to discuss foods that can actively help to manage insulin resistance, improve your lipid profile, and thus reduce the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Have a heart-healthy diet. Rather than seeking a low cholesterol food list, evaluate your diet carefully and make simple and sustainable swaps to prevent perpetual glucose and insulin spikes that could lead to vascular dysfunction and buildup of visceral fat. And that means to limit your intake of refined, highly processed carbs, so foods such as cakes and pastries, soda, and bread and roti made with white flour. Whether your cholesterol has crept up over the years or is genetic, eating well will be beneficial. A heart-healthy diet includes a variety of food items. For example, choose fruits, vegetables, and plant-based proteins such as lentils, beans, nuts, seeds, and whole grains more often. One University of Toronto study showed that eating a plant-based diet reduced cardiovascular disease risk factors, including triglycerides, inflammation, and blood pressure. In fact, the evidence laid out during the American Heart Association's scientific sessions revealed that plant-based diets lessened the risk of heart failure by 42% among people with no prior history of heart disease. The fact of the matter is that plant foods are packed with antioxidants which help to stop LDL cholesterol from forming plaque in arteries. When it comes to fruits, remember to enjoy whole fruits more often versus juices, which will spike insulin levels and could lead to insulin resistance over time. Fruits such as berries, peppers, and tomatoes also contain high levels of disease-fighting phytonutrients, compounds naturally found in plants. Interestingly, research has shown compelling evidence that antioxidants found in amla, the Indian gooseberry, can generate significant reductions in cholesterol, LDL, and triglycerides, and improve HDL in those with diabetes. I can't say this enough, but whenever you can, enjoy more vegetables, especially those rich in nitrates. Now, nitrates help to relax the arteries and allow more blood flow to prevent blockages. Some delicious food examples include arugula, beets, beet greens, Swiss chard, cilantro, basil, and rhubarb. Now, you know how much I adore fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and you can find a bunch of ways to enjoy cooking with them over on shahzadidevji.com. Now, let's talk about fat, shall we? What's important is that you optimize your omega-6 to omega-3 fats ratio, because a high ratio may contribute to inflammation and could raise disease risk. As Western populations, we typically consume an excess of processed seed and vegetable oils and not enough omega-3 fats. I've curated a list of high and low food sources of omega-6 and rich sources of omega-3 over on the blog. The link is in the description box. Always pay attention to nutrition labels and ingredients before making a purchase. You want to ditch trans fats, which are also known as hydrogenated oils. These can be present in products as sneaky ingredients to make them last longer. They can also be present in processed food items such as supermarket-ready meals and ultra-processed or highly manipulated foods such as chips, cookies, soft drinks, sugar-laden breakfast cereals, candy, and the list goes on. Now, this one may surprise you. Did you know that gut microbes have been found to affect risk factors for heart health? Research shows that looking after these colorful characters is very important because they probably have some influence on risk factors such as obesity and diabetes. So how should we look after them? Now, one way is to increase soluble fiber. Soluble fiber absorbs water to form a thick paste in our digestive tracts, and this supports digestive health and therefore leads to better heart health outcomes. Now, foods rich in soluble fiber include whole grains such as oats and brown rice, and legumes including beans, lentils, chickpeas, and peas. And don't forget that both prebiotics and probiotics provide our digestive armies with much needed reinforcements. So take care of your gut. Reduce added sugar. A high added sugar intake has been connected with increased triglycerides. These raise heart disease risk and are a sign of metabolic syndrome. Added sugar may also be the driver for coronary heart disease via insulin resistance and hyperinsulinemia. Revisit your carb load. Given that out-of-control glucose and insulin levels result in arterial disease, a low-carb diet has shown to have a favorable influence in the short term. I've shared numerous studies over on the blog. Now, additionally, a low-carb diet may positively influence triglyceride levels in the blood. However, the evidence isn't as clear-cut when it comes to low-carb diets and LDL levels. According to some scientists, a low-carb diet often offers minimal or no reduction of LDL and total cholesterol levels. Spice up your food. Herbs and spices, even when used for garnishing, can act as nutritional powerhouses. Research shows that garlic, turmeric, and ginger are especially effective at lowering cholesterol when consumed regularly. Exercise is effective. It's no surprise that exercise and movement is important when it comes to reducing the risk of cardiovascular complications. In fact, any chronic disease. Physical movement could range from anything between a lunch hour walk, a dance routine, a 30-minute jump rope session, or a quick workout at home. Exercise helps increase levels of HDL, good cholesterol. Avoid smoking. It is true that smoking increases the risk of many health problems, including heart disease and lung cancer. Now, according to the American Heart Association, smoking lowers your good cholesterol level and raises your risk of high blood pressure and heart disease. Minimize alcohol. If you like to engage in a glass of wine or two, but are worried about your cholesterol levels, cutting down on alcohol can help. Now, alcohol is broken down and transformed into triglycerides and cholesterol in the liver. So, drinking alcohol raises triglycerides and cholesterol in your blood. If these levels become too high, they can build up in the liver and cause fatty liver disease. Therefore, in order to minimize risk, spread your alcohol units out across the week to remain aware of your consumption and have some drink-free days. Eat mindfully. I am a huge advocate for mindful eating because it focuses our attention completely on what and how we eat. This allows for a kinder judgment over our food choices, makes room for treats, and allows us to nourish a positive relationship with food. Say no to stress. It's true. How stressed you are may have an adverse impact on your cholesterol levels. This may be because the body releases a hormone called cortisol in response to stress. Now, high levels of cortisol from long-term stress may be instrumental in increased cholesterol. Look for ways to control those stress levels to better manage your heart health. One example is laughter. Well, they do say it's the best medicine, and rightly so it seems. Apparently, laughter releases nitric oxide, a chemical that protects the heart by reducing inflammation and preventing cholesterol plaques. So watch a funny film and have a good laugh, and leave me a comment sharing your favorite ones. These tips and tools are some of the best examples of taking control of your health in order to lead a flourishing lifestyle. Slowly but surely, each one can be built upon to form the habits you need to protect and nurture your heart health. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment. I'd love to know what nutrition and diet related topics or recipes you'd like me to dive into next. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.